and welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Herald, my chance to talk with creative gamers and game creators. And today, coming in all the way from London, I have Mark Tuck, designer of Squirrelin Around. How you doing this morning, Mark?
I'm fine. I woke up about 15 minutes ago, so excuse any croakiness in the voice.
Yeah, and
But I'm fine.
I'm eagerly anticipating bedtime, but even more than bedtime, I'm anticipating this call. I'm looking forward to this, man. This is your first game, and it's getting published on Kickstarter. Well, it's going up on Kickstarter here soon. Yeah. Tell me about Squirrelin Around. What is this game?
It's basically a dexterity game combined with a sort of set collection element for 2 to 4 players. And the theme actually was sort of changed part way through the development of the game. So the history of the game is quite interesting. So
it wasn't always squirrels. What was the original?
It's certainly not always squirrels. It originated as jelly beans, believe it or not, or Jack and the Jelly Bean Stalk was the original theme of the game.
Okay. Well, tell me about this game, because I know that you're a print and play designer. You've established yourself within the BGG print and play community, and this is the first game that's actually been picked up by a publisher.
Yeah, I've been in the world of print and play for about 3 years now. I first got involved when I was actually reminiscing with some workmates about games that we remembered from our childhood, once we saw advertised on television, which we'd wished we got for Christmas and never appeared in Santa's sack. And,
what would those games be?
Well, the one I particularly remembered was a game called The Fastest Draw.
The Fastest
and it was set
Draw.
In the Wild West. And it looked brilliant as they advertised it. It was a sort of 3-dimensional game where you were a gunfighter. The outside of the board was pretty much like a Monopoly type arrangement where you collected properties, etc. But the climax of the game was an actual gunfight with 3-dimensional figures. That looked brilliant on television, and I always wished I got that. So I looked at, I did a bit of research and just basically stumbled across Board Game Geek, and I found the game, and I actually bid on it on eBay.
And you got it.
Paid excessively too much money, and I got it.
Hey, everyone has that story. I mean, I have a copy of Hero Quest on my shelf because I had to find the copy of Hero Quest that I played as a kid. I didn't have the original copy, so I found mine. And I know all of you British people over there, you know all about what's up with Hero Quest. And then producer for the Cardboard Herald, Robert over here, he was like, yo, I need to find this 1965 edition of Sequence, something like that. Yeah. And, he's like, I gotta find the one that my dad had as a kid.
Unfortunately, I think I was bidding against somebody who was particularly interested in that game as well. So
they drove it up.
The end of the story was that I received the game. As suffice to say, it didn't actually live up to my memories or expectations of it as a sort of an adult versus a small child. I played it once, put it back in the box, and then I put it back on eBay.
There you go. It was an experience, and you were done with it. I'm glad you were able to let go.
The happy ending to that story was it got me involved with the wonderful Board Game Geek community, and as a result, I discovered this world of print and play, and that's how I got involved in the print and play. There's always several contests going on. And I'd always sort of designed games, but only for myself or maybe for the family to play at Christmas time, never for a sort of wider audience. So I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to maybe test my perceived prowess at game design. And I entered what was then was the 18-card contest on Board Game Geek. And that's how I was bitten by the print and play bug.
How'd you do in the contest?
That contest, I think they shortlisted 18 games. I got to the final shortlist.
Nice.
With that first game. So that was quite, quite a good feeling. I thought, well, I can hold my own here. And what I did find was really interesting was sort of looking at other designers' games and feeding back on their games. It was quite a good sort of community in that sense as well. And then from then, I immediately looked at the next contest, which was called the 9-card design contest. And the parameters of that contest was, as the title suggests, you had to design a game using just 9 cards plus any other sort of readily available components like dice or tokens. And that contest, I think the organizer had set a challenge. He said, "We don't seem to have any games in the dexterity category."
Oh.
And I thought, well, that's a challenge. Let's have a think about that one. I designed a game for that contest. It wasn't this particular game we're featured on, but it was called Toss, TOSS, and it was about pancake flipping.
Okay, I can dig it. I like pancakes.
Yeah, so that got quite a good reaction. I also entered at the same time, because I was on a roll, I entered another game called Kokono, which was an abstract game with an ever-changing board of nine cards. Sort of had quite a Japanese Zen vibe to it. And that won the best 2-player game in that contest.
I'm seeing a pattern of different themes here. You have a Japanese aesthetic theme. You have pancakes. You have jelly beans. I mean, what's going on here? You don't have any sort of aliens. You don't have elves. What's going on?
No, what I try to do is try to come up with a different sort of theme and or mechanic every game. So I get sort of maybe I get a bit bored. I'm not sort of one of these people that sort of just continually churns out the same variation or expansion on the same theme. So, I mean, I haven't got anything against space aliens or dungeons or delving or anything like that, but I leave that maybe to other designers that are maybe better in sort of charged with that sort of themes or genres, as it were. So yeah, I try to just to keep myself sort of interested, try and do something different each time round. So with this 9-card contest, I thought, is there a different way maybe that I can do a dexterity game that doesn't involve just cards? And so that's when I sort of got involved with maybe playing around with cards and cubes or dice, trying to come up with a different mechanic. I thought I had a good idea, so I entered a third idea in this contest, only to be pleasantly reminded by the organisers of the contest that there was only a 2-game limit per designer. So they said, yeah, it looks like a good idea, but unfortunately, you've reached your limit with this contest.
There's only so many dexterity games we can take from you, Mark.
It wasn't just dexterity. It was just literally, a 2-game limit for each designer. So I thought, oh, well, we'll shelve that for the time being. But at the same time, there was yet another contest on Board Game Geek, which was called the 1-page contest. And this required games to have their printable components on literally a single sheet of, US letter as it is in the States, I believe, but A4 anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
A4 page. So your cards or tiles or board, everything had to fit on the 1 page. And then you could have other generic components like cubes or dice as well. I thought, well, maybe I could get this idea to work within those constraints. And that was the birth of what is now Squirrelin Around.
So, at what point did QSF get involved? Did they see your game going into a contest and they were like, "Oh, this looks like an original idea"? Or did Quick Stick and Pull Fun later on contact you, or did you pitch this game to them? What's the origin story of your union?
The game design is literally a hobby of mine, and I never actually ever considered approaching a publisher or pitching to a publisher anything that I've done. So it was nice to be contacted by Quick Simple Fun Games, and it was I think it was literally a few weeks after the contest finished. The game, I think, did win that category of best dexterity game.
Oh, congratulations, dude.
Best mechanic, I think. I can't remember the exact category, but they obviously, I assume, will tend to look around Board Game Geek for any interesting ideas that crop up, particularly in these print and play contests. So, yeah, I was literally, I think I was on a holiday actually in Italy, and I had an email from them just asking if I was interested in signing up with them, and I said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's, as far as I was concerned, it was a game that had just, was just going to hang around the vaults of Board Game Geek in the print and play world, and so I thought that could be an exciting prospect to sort of get it out there to a wider audience. So that's literally how it started. The other thing I thought, particularly with that game, that was exciting was within the confines of the print and play. It was very restricted in terms of the components and also how people could actually get hold of it, because with that particular game, it relied very heavily on the ratio of the size of card with the weight of the cube. So it was basically the mechanic was building a tower with a card followed by a cube, followed by a card, followed by a cube, and you literally built the beanstalk as it grew, and you had Jack on top of the beanstalk as a little meeple. But that was a very, as I said, restricted in the world of print and play, because it did rely on people having the right components for it to work. So I thought, if it had a chance of being published, then it would be great to have some bespoke components in terms of the sort of the size and the weight of them, so that out the box it worked and you didn't have to worry about what you were producing yourself as a print and play. So that was particularly with this game quite an interesting sort of opportunity, I suppose.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that, because in print and play games, you have to think about the confines, not just the contest, but also if this is meant to be print and played, you don't want people to have to go out and like buy specific materials. They should have those materials available. But if you're actually getting this game published, you have a lot more freedom, and that's got to be a totally different mindset for how you develop a game. Now, when did it switch from being in the beanstalk to being squirreling around?
That was them totally their idea, because I think it had been in development probably for about a year. I think probably these sort of games, dexterity games, generally probably take a lot longer to develop, because there is the whole aspect of the components and how that works, aside from any other game mechanics. But I think it was about a year, and I can't remember if they contacted me or I was just inquiring as to how the game was progressing, and they said that they'd had to change the theme due to a trademark in the United States on jelly bean stalk. I didn't really, yeah,
Okay.
I didn't actually follow it up in terms of what the issue was, but I assume either the name Jelly Bean Stalk was trademarked, or whether Jelly Bean, if that's a company that exists in the US, maybe they had an issue with it. I don't know.
I think jelly beans aren't in and of themselves trademarked. Otherwise, Jelly Belly would be all over that. But I can vouch as an American that our trademark and
Yeah,
copyright and patent systems are absolute dumpster fires. So
yeah.
I'm not surprised that Jelly Beanstalk had to be changed at some point.
They told me they were thinking about changing the theme to squirrels, and I said, that's fine. I love squirrels.
Who doesn't?
Um, I think they'll probably be quite cute. Let's see. I was interested to see where it went, and it's only recently I've actually seen some of the art that they've commissioned, which looks fantastic. So very exciting on that score as well.
So, with your experience being primarily as a print and play designer, and you didn't even have the intention of becoming a published, fully box on the shelf designer, do you find that you enjoy one versus the other?
Since I can talk about another of my games shortly that won a Golden Geek in print and play, and since that's happened, I've had several publishers approaching me.
Yeah, dude, Golden Geek, that's a big deal, man.
It's a bit scary, to be honest, because it's nothing anticipated when I started out on the journey. So I had one guy asking to be, I think he's a representative for game designers. So he pitches ideas to big publishers and asking me if I'm willing to work on any of his projects.
Wait. Stop this right here. You're telling me that there are board game agents out there. Like, this is wild. I have been doing interviews for approaching 3 years now. I mean, over 2 years, and I have never heard of this where there is someone who would represent game designers in sending their pitches on. This is wild. This is like Hollywood.
I think I haven't actually taken him up on it yet, but from what I understand, he receives briefs from publishers or the likes of Hasbro, for instance. He'd receive a brief from them. He's not a designer himself, and then he would have a bank of designers that he knows or is on his books, and he'd obviously ask them if they'd be interested in coming up with just a sort of pitch document or something, for him to present back to his client. From then, I suppose if they're favourable with a particular idea, then they'd work with that designer and him to sort of develop it, and hopefully it would become reality. I think he probably takes a 50% cut in any sort of fees generated from that. So as I said, that I'm not sure I'm a one-man band, and I think from what I know, a lot of his people he uses are sort of design teams, working within the industry. So I've got a daytime job as well, so you've got that sort of thing to think about. Obviously, as a hobby, I can fit in print and play as and when I want to. It's a flexible hobby, but it is nice to work with publishers. I think it's quite exciting to just see an idea you've had hopefully come to fruition, and obviously know that people in the industry recognise your work really, or appreciative of what you do. So I think that's quite nice. So yeah, I think I'd say I enjoy the print and play aspect and the sort of whole community aspect a lot, and I think the publishing side at the moment is a nice bonus, probably.
That's awesome. You know, what is the Golden Geek winner game? What's the title of that so people can check it out?
That was a game I entered 2008. That's last year, basically. Again, it was the 9-card contest for that year, last year. It's called Orchard. I subtitled it a 9-card solitaire game. So yeah, that was entered and that won the 9-card contest for the overall game, which was great. And then, unbeknown to me, somebody nominated it. I believe is the way these Golden Geeks work. I don't know. Nominated it for a Golden Geek within the category of print and play. I thought, well, that's great. Thank you very much. To my surprise and great pleasure, it won the Golden Geek. So obviously that then generated several inquiries from publishers asking if I was interested. Even a Chinese publisher contacted me and said they wanted to produce the game, and a couple of my other ones for the Chinese market, which I thought was amazing. So yeah, I decided to go with I think it's quite a fledgling company called Sideroom Games, and it's run by a guy called Dustin, who himself is very active in the print and play community. I thought that was quite a good fit for the game. They have published 2 or 3 games to date, I think all via Kickstarter, and they've all originated as print and plays.
Well, I think the best way that we could leave this is if we talk about the community aspect of the print and play community, the whole design scene there. And I've had a couple print and play designers on the show in the past, including Janice Turner of Ren Games, and then my buddy Mike Hyman here in Juneau, Alaska. He enters a ton of these print and play contests under the BGG name Mike Hyman. And I realize that there are probably a lot of people who are interested in tabletop games because they know the hobby games, the big box games out there, and they're not aware that there's this whole scene of people who are participating in these, and this is a great gateway to work on your chops as a designer. So if you were giving someone some advice about how to enter into the print and play scene, what would you tell them?
Focus on a sort of what makes your game different. If it's a sort of single mechanic or idea that makes it a bit different, and then maybe build a theme around it. A theme is always quite attractive, brings a game to life. And enter into a contest then. I mean, there's plenty of them at any one point. There's always a contest going on, or 1 or 2 contests going on at Board Game Geek. There's a solitaire contest, there's a 2-player contest. As I mentioned earlier, there's a 18-card, 9-card. I find that they're a great way to be creative, or to sort of get your creative juices flowing, because you have to work within a certain constraint. Sometimes if somebody's just thinking, design a game, it can be a bit scary, how big is it going to be, what's the theme, whereas if you're working within the parameters of a contest, it tends to focus your mind a bit, and I think that's a great way to be creative. And as you said, the community there is a fantastic way to get feedback on your game. What tends to happen is you put a work in progress thread up. It's just explaining your initial idea, and maybe posting a few images if you've just got some prototype. It doesn't need to be a highly finished prototype. I just have handwritten scribbles on bits of paper or whatever, just to test the game. Get your work in progress thread up. Get some basic components up that they can, on Google Drive or whatever, that people can download. And then you'll be surprised at how knowledgeable and friendly these people are. They'll feed back on your game, tell you their thoughts, what they think might be improved, or if you've got any issues, you can ask the community. And before you'll know it, you'll be bitten by the bug. And the other thing I'd say is I enter them not to win. I mean, they're called contests, but really it's not about competing or it's not about winning. It's more about developing your skills as a designer. So don't take the results too seriously. I've seen
Yep.
people maybe getting a bit too uptight about who won or why they didn't do so well in the actual in the sort of positions, the final standings of the contest. Don't take those results too seriously. The end of the contest doesn't need to be the end of your game's development. As I found out, it can be just the start of quite an exciting journey for your little game. So definitely recommend, if you're interested in design, checking out those contests.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching the Cardboard Herald. If you want to check out Golden Geek winner Orchard, the 9-card solitaire game, did I get that right, Mark?
Right. That's right, yeah.
Then the link will be in the description below, as well as the link to the Kickstarter for Squirrelin Around, brought to you by Quick, Simple, Fun Games, which is going to be up if you're watching this at the time that the video goes up. So go check that out. And Mark, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
That's no problem at all. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks a lot.
If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website, cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.